March 29th, 2016, Joplin School Board of Education. First order of business, Pat, roll call, please.
Lindsay Van Wert.
Present.
Debbie Ford.
Present.
Sally Beard.
Present.
Ron Gatz.
Present.
Jeff Coe.
Present.
Jennifer Martucci.
Here.
And Gary Nodler.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. If you could all stand, please. We have a special presentation tonight of the colors by our ROTC.
Mark time. March. Colors. Hold. Left. Face. Freeze then. Colors.
Could all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gary. Colors. Pose. Right. Face. Forward. March.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
If you weren't aware, I believe Joplin's got the longest recurring JROTC unit in the country.
No, that won't quite stretch that way.
Appreciate them coming and presenting the colors for us tonight.
Coming up on 100 years, too.
100 years, is that
I think
in
it's
seven?
I think it's either 17 or 19. I'm not-
17, so it's coming up. It's, we'll have a special celebration for it. Next item on the agenda is approval of the action list, but I've got one item that needs to be pulled out. That is policy G8C, policy DGA. We're not quite ready there, so G8 DGA.
8C.
8C.
Yellow line.
So we're removing it
It
completely?
removing it, yes.
There we go.
Are there any other requests for changes to the agenda? If there are no other requests, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
So moved.
Second.
Sally moved, Gary second. Please vote.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes.
Okay.
So first of all, Board President's report. First, I want to say thank you. We've got some guests in the audience. We've got, and as I call your name, please stand up. Mary Gardner is running for a spot on the school board next week. Melissa Rogers, also, 3-year spot, I believe. Okay. Carlos Haley. Carlos is running for one of the 1-year spot. And Chris Sloan. All right, thank you. Chris is running for a 1-year spot. Lori Musser, running for a 2-year spot. And before I say anybody else, Jennifer, I've missed it 2 times in a row. So Jennifer Martucci is also running for a 3-year spot. So thank you. Anybody that I missed? Okay. Thank you all for coming and voluntarily for hopefully the last time. No, it's a volunteer position, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Let's start off with committee reports. Policy Committee, Linda?
Really, other than the policies that we have on there, we met yesterday, other than the policies presented. don't have anything else to add. unless you-
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. The Data Analysis Committee, we did meet, we did some slight wording modifications and added a communication indicator to the draft that we had discussed back in February. That's going to be rolled into the superintendent's report. He'll share some more information about that, but we also started to review the feedback from the teacher survey. So we have that data that we're starting to analyze now.
Jeff, I do have a question. Budget Committee's not even listed on here anymore. I'm starting to feel left out. When is the Budget Committee going to meet?
Paul, do you have a,
We've reorganized to form a finance advisory committee with area CPAs. We'll be meeting and discussing a topic in April.
So will you email those of us that are on that committee so we know when it is?
the finance people are still on the committee. We'll reorganize next week and we'll determine who's on the committee, and if you want to continue to serve, I have no objection, but we'll make those assignments next week. And how often will that committee meet?
We were going to schedule it, the topics are going to be as determined by the board and administration, more about to take advantage of the expertise of the 5 CPAs who have agreed to serve. They were going to be things more of a non-standard type topics is what Dr. Ritter and I were discussing. The first topic was going to be looking at the financial statements of the districts around us. Well, since you saw the charts from the baseline presentation in December, we had a lot of contiguous districts reported and some outside the area in terms of how they spend their budgets, and we want to compare our spending to their spending, see what they're putting in the classroom dollar-wise, what compared to us, and try to peel back layers of the onion to see should we be spending our dollars differently than we currently are, that sort of thing. So that was going to be the first topic Dr. Ritter and I talked about challenging that committee with at the April meeting. But as far as how often, we were thinking possibly quarterly and then as needed in between quarters, something like that.
A lot of times the finance committee like that gets involved in some of the times where you'll have the health benefits trust conversations and the financial impact on that, and that comparison that gets to, so you might have a meeting periodically because of that, to
Right.
respond to that. So there's all those types of things. So.
Okay, and you said there was 5 community CPAs?
Right.
You happen to know?
Yeah, I can give you the Mike Graves with Barrett Kurtz and Dobson, BKD. Brandon Davis is he's got his own CPA firm. Mike Leone is controller at Freeman Health System. Then we have Jeff Gibson is the director of budget and business operations, I believe, at Southern, and then retired CPA with Davis Roderick is Charlie Davis, retired CPA. And we did reach out. I know we met with the board a couple months ago and talked about candidates. We reached out to all those possible candidates, and we have another candidate that's has a leave issue with her family that she may have an interest. I'm going to extend sometime late next fall to see if she has an interest in joining, because we're trying to maintain a balance to represent the community. So that's what we're going to start out with. And we're fortunate that they agreed to serve in this capacity.
Because initially we said 3 women, 3 men.
I took all the recommendations. I called way beyond that first list, and I've got one that's a good possibility. You know, you have to work with the market that you have.
Yep. Okay,
Stuff.
all right, so we'll hear more about that in April. Okay. Superintendent's data report?
FEMA update. Paul.
Yes, we have some slides. The first slide is one you're familiar with. It shows the 7 primary projects we've been, and by the way, this is on our, will be with our board packet for tonight's meeting documentation available to the public. I guess we'll post it up tomorrow morning. But this is one that the board's seen the last several months. It shows the title indicates it's our 7 rebuild permanent projects. and these have been obligated by FEMA, which means they've written the projects and they've committed to these dollars. They're looking forward to receiving our submission and closeout package, which the 3 lines at the bottom give the dates of our submissions. We first submit to SEMA. SEMA gives it a good thorough going over for weeks and months to get it in shape for FEMA, and then SEMA, the state, submits it on to the federal government, FEMA. And you can see in the left side there that FEMA has received 2 projects to date from SEMA. And we've given SEMA, 6 projects. One as of, let's see, 3/14, we have 1 other grounds to give. I think that's going to go in tomorrow. So we have 1 more of those 7 to give. We did have an answer. You see that lower left date of February 9. We were answered back on our closeout document from FEMA. They agreed to pay of the obligated amount, $1.7 million. You'll see that in later slides too. So that's the tracking on that slide there. If you want to go to the next slide, Eric. This slide kind of is one you haven't seen, but it's one that is a helpful slide. It describes back when we it basically responds to the cash flow, where we expect to get our funds from these obligations. It points to our source of payment that you see coming up on the agenda later in tonight's meeting, where we ask to extend the Bank of America agreement with the current agreement we have with them to allow more time for things outside our control, which is the collections of these FEMA and SEMA receipts. It's been a successful project so far, but you see there in the, the middle column is that we've received $11.4 million to date on those projects. And I know our agreement last year at this time with Bank of America was $28.5 million. So out of that $28.5 million, we've received from those sources $11.4. We paid that over to Bank of America at this time, and the balance in our books currently owed Bank of America is about $17 million, and that's what's lining up in that far right column. Those are the sources we expect to collect over the next year, sources of funds to make that payment, to pay in full what we currently owe Bank of America. So that's kind of a combination FEMA look, but also with the idea of the extended agreement we're going to request your approval of later in tonight's agenda.
And is that $30 million level the level of already approved receipts?
That was pledged back when we initiated the Bank of America agreement a year ago. We pledged $30 million in receipts, 30.4. That was on the front end of the current agreement that we're asking.
But how much does FEMA still owe us in pre-approved projects?
I'm going to go back to the prior slide, Eric, please. The far right column, on those 7 projects, they and SEMA together owe us 8 or 6 million?
6.
For those 7, they owe us that much. Okay. And then you're going to see another slide that I expanded this report because we have many more projects than those large primary projects we were giving our efforts to, because it relates to the large dollars. But if you go on to slide 3, Eric, you'll see...
Paul, can I clarify something?
Yeah.
Following up what he just said. So going back to that slide, FEMA still owes us 7.6
for the obligated amounts.
for obligated amounts. Now go to slide 2, Eric. But this is showing we still owe Bank of America 17.1.
So
So
worst
we have to
case,
find
we're going to
10
get down
million.
to 10 million if they don't approve any of these other applications.
And that's where we're hoping the errors and omissions
No,
money will come
there's
in?
if you allow me to get through this
Okay.
presentation,
Okay.
you just now see it for the first time tonight, it's going to answer some of that, but we can talk it through.
Okay.
So these are the other, flip to the last slide, Eric. These 2 pages are a little hard to read, but the last slide, this gives you the totality of all the projects we've been dealing with for 5 years. The 2 pages we're going to go back to, those details, are 35 projects that are obligated, including the 7 that we've been really focusing on. There's 28 more projects. We're going to go back to those 2-page detailed listing, and they will produce some dollars also. There's obligated dollars in there. There's 43 additional projects, worksheets that FEMA created that don't have obligated amounts because they maybe thought we needed them, or they altered the project during the life of the project. We make some footnotes there about 6 and 37 of those. But the the purpose of this slide, this recap slide, is to say that we've been working with the state and the federal government on 78 projects the last 5 years. Some have outstanding monies they owe us, some are closed out, and some of those are still in process. So that just gives you a snapshot of the totality of the picture of the last 5 years. Now, if you go back to 2 slides back, yeah, this slide shows of those other 28 projects that you've not, and this is really too small for the screen, I apologize, but again, this will be out in the board documents, and this is just FYI. There's no action associated with this, but you'll see the second page of that also, Eric. I'm going to point to the total down there in the far right, almost the third column from the right, 14.4 million, is that right? That's obligated total funding that FEMA and SEMA have obligated for us, that as we process claims, that amount should come in. But in slide 1, the 7 big projects we've been following, that accounted for 7.7, is that right?
7.6, so that's in addition to that?
Not in addition, it's
That's
6.8, the
total.
difference. The difference of 6.8 will come from those other projects. The total is the 14 million.
Total on everything?
Right, when you take,
Yeah,
Everything, yeah.
right,
Right.
okay.
right, that's,
So really, we're looking at the difference
Yeah.
between 17.1 million that we owe on the loans and 14.4.
Yeah, and you can go back to, Eric, if you go to slide 1, just to show that the first 7 projects listed there in bold, again, this is really too much for a screenshot, but the first 7 on the screen, the first screen you saw tonight, they're listed there also, just to make that a total project recap, but we don't want to be double counting that first slide with this 14 and get 21, that would be bad math, so.
Okay.
But if you would go back to slide 2, Eric, I want to show again that the amount to be collected and that approximate balance to be collected column totaling 17.1 million. We're looking at, that's how much we need of all of our resources, those ones listed. That bottom line there says in bold, combination of internal and long-term lease. That's if we need the lease, because if enough of that 14 million comes in, we would not even be needing to lease, long-term lease anything. But I put that there because to be a conservative finance officer, we don't want to be, at this time, as we're looking to extend the current agreement with a good interest rate, with good terms, no prepayment penalty, to pay that 17 million down further, just like we have the 11 million that's come in the last year. We expect that 17 to be going down as these receipts come in from FEMA. That's a good thing because you save interest when you get credit for pushing your principal down. So by the time we look at next year, after collecting more, and it may be all of 17 or something shy of 17, we'll be looking internally with the board and as to what can we afford to pull in from our balances and resources, and if anything, what do we need to do in terms of a longer-term financing for X amount of dollars. But that's the conservative presentation I'm going to convey tonight, with some confidence level that some of those other receipts are going to come in and maybe make a long-term lease a moot issue. But if they don't come in, that is our solution, and that's a solid solution. And I referenced back in 14, summer of 14, May and July, that long-term lease was what our board at that time was talking about then to finance any gap we had.
It was 12
because of-
million, wasn't it?
Excuse me?
Was that 12 million?
That was 8 million.
8 million.
For items we had that
It was
we
12.
didn't have before and ran into some mining issues, that sort of thing. I referenced those 2 action items where the board, in conjunction with our financial advisor, George K. Baum, we were thinking we might be needing to go out then for a longer-term financing, but we decided for the right reasons, I believe, to go short-term financing, allow these collections to come in, push the principal down, amount being borrowed, save interest as it went down, since the market has pretty favorable low interest rates at this time. You know, had we locked into a long-term arrangement then or even today, it'd probably take 5 years for us to pay the principal down, and we'd be collecting these monies, having it in the bank for a little or no interest, because it's hard to make money with deposits now, and we couldn't push down our principal. So it's good that we've had an arrangement we've had that allows us to pay it down as monies have come in.
How much is in our reserve fund at this point? How much do we have in our reserve?
And the balance, it's in the financial statements, it's in the board packet, I don't have it memorized.
It's right around,
It's in the board packet.
is it around 20 million
I'm not going to guess.
It was a year end.
year end, that's
Okay,
right.
so, because what we're looking at is about a $2.6 million difference between the 17.1 we owe and the 14.5 we expect to come in. So that could be handled out of the reserve rather than taking out more financing and,
That's what I'm suggesting on that
Right,
bottom.
that's-
Without quoting numbers, because I can't, that's trying to look ahead to the spring of 17, a year from now. I mean, the normal way to go about it would be look and see what we can finance internally, what we have, and make a judgment. Do we have any other monies coming in that are reliable? At this time next year, a June 1, 17 date will just be a couple months away, so that's why I point to spring. We'll have to decide, do we have it within, or do we need to go out for a longer term, kind of a gap financing?
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Okay, the
Thanks, Paul.
next thing we have is, again, Paul, with health and dental care insurance reports. Tina, go.
Yes, Tina and I are working with the employee advisory group that's working with the administration, and we've had some good volunteers, and Tina's going to add as to how that group's been operating here in a minute. But I did want to take the board back to the chart you saw last summer, when we were wrestling with the financial balance. The balance of the health fund was getting very low last summer. We knew it was on our radar. That's the picture from 2010. At what, 3.5 million was our health plan balance. 11, it actually went up to 4.2 million. So we were at a very good place then. We were in a good place in 12 at 3.2 million. But that's when the story started to be told that a combination of a level premium that you'll see on the next slide, but and then a combination of higher expenses utilization, because we have good contracts with our network provider. It's when the utilization goes up, that's a crystal ball thing you can't control when everybody gets sick or has to go to the doctor. That's just the hand of fate. So you saw this last summer, the balance trended down to a precarious number there of what, 265,000 in January. But that's when we decided, with the tough work we did last fall, having to pull in those additional funds, that we really don't want to repeat that, because you should be funding your plan with premiums that are right sized to fund it in advance, not having to pull monies in from the operating budget and do what we did. So if you go to the next slide, Eric, in our meeting yesterday, we had Health Care Solution Group. I believe he helps run the premiums for all their plans groups, and he's run our premiums the last couple of years. He and Officer Sherry McCoy presented to the employee group, and they pointed out this graph was really a causal factor to what you saw in the prior graph, and that is, even though we were kind of prideful that we had a flat premium there back in 2010 of $350, that covered the cost per employee of $356. So did the next year. Well, what we heard from the expert yesterday was you ought to be thinking twice, or just not ever have the same premium year after year. There ought to be an automatic increase of 5% at a minimum, because those bad years are going to come where your cost per employee, as you see there in 12, will outpace your premium, and you're going to wish you had started bumping that up in the prior years when you perhaps didn't need it in those years. So that level, that 5-year level there, is what contributed in large part to that prior screen, the balance is going down. We should have been increasing to some reasonable degree when we weren't in those years. You saw that last summer, but that's the point we made to the group. And the group asked us, as the group wrestles with this issue, and Tina's going to talk about the group meetings and that. I think we've had a couple all-employee meetings, followed by 2 committee meetings. And the committee knows there's tough work ahead, and they're at kind of a midpoint where I believe they want to bring a recommendation to the board at the April meeting if we can get our work done, and they seem like that they're up to it, committed. But they wanted the board and the community to see these 2 slides, that we showed last summer, again, just to kind of have that in mind as you look at a potential recommendation at the April meeting.
So just to speak a little bit to the employee meetings that we're having, we had 2 public employee meetings where we broadcast and everybody, could come. So we did that. And then we also have a committee of 12 employees that represent various positions in the district, certified, classified, clerical, bus driver. I mean, we've got all the employee groups represented, I believe. But they're really doing very good work, and what we spend a lot of time on is really educating them. We're giving them information. We started with information that we thought was relevant to get some things in their hands, and as they're digging into it, now they're asking us for, as they're, being inquisitive, they're wanting more information. So we're trying to push, every piece of information that we can get on the health plan based on what they're asking for, and they're, asking a lot of good questions. And I think they feel like the information has been valuable, and they're prepared and willing and excited to really get out in their buildings to educate, people that they work with. So they're going to be ready, I believe. They've got 2 more meetings scheduled. They have one next week and then one the week after. So for the April board meeting, they should be able to come forward and have a recommendation on how to handle the balances that are in the health plan.
Tina, do you also want to share what you put out and what the departments put out in terms of all employees have access to a lot of what we've been presenting to that committee?
What we did, we have an employee portal. It's an internal network where our employees access all kinds of documents, and every meeting that we have, we upload those documents to that system so that they are accessible to all employees, so they can see the agenda, who's on the committee, any graphs or any information at all. We're scanning them and uploading them so that they're there for every employee to take a look at.
And what's the purpose of this committee? What's the purpose of the committee?
We wanted the employee groups to have a voice because this is their plan. So we wanted to educate them so that the employee group themselves can make a recommendation to say, so for example, if we look at what the fund balances are now, and as we've been communicating with the board, will we need to do something before the end of the year? Well, what's the something? We don't know. That's not determined. How will we address increasing the fund balance? So we asked and gathered a group of employees so that they can provide that solution, provide a recommendation on the solution for how to, 1, address any funding shortfalls in the plan, but 2, to look at any, changes they may want to see in the plan for the October 1 plan year. So that's the purpose of the committee.
Usually what comes out of something like that is a lot of wellness conversations and really HMO type of conversations. And so that kind of ownership, and also when you have that ownership, you don't have near the complaints. Hey, it was a group decision, so that's really what this is all about. So,
And I think what's been great about the committee is to hear not only the individuals that represent different groups of employees, but also individuals that represent different places in their lives and how they've had to utilize the plan. So they're coming at it from a lot of good perspectives.
boy, it's found to be very powerful. Okay, then any other questions? And financial statements, Paul?
Just the standard statements we issue every month, and but I knew that the FEMA discussion and the 2 items later in the agenda will get most of the financial discussion tonight. Any questions?
Mr. Jason.
Thank you. Mr. Cravens?
Jason. Mr. Cravens is just following up on the safety audit, but also has also shaped the committee of citizens. So anyway, go ahead.
All right. Well, since last we presented on safety, Columbia Safe Rooms built, so that's a plus.
You're not taking credit for that, are you?
I am not. I give all that credit to
to
the board, Mike Johnson.
That was number 14, and it's all done now.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that was out there lingering. It hadn't been completed yet. On the safety audit, we had identified 5 different areas, and so really what I've done is just counted green for, hey, this is complete or resolved within the audit, yellow meaning it's in process, and then red are areas that are still not done. And so out of 17, we have 6 in the green. This is on the grounds.
Where is that?
There's not, this is just a short informational presentation on the number of tasks completed on the safety audit, and then updating where we are, because last meeting we talked about a safety committee and forming that.
What's on the audit? I mean,
So
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
said it's broken into
6
5
green items.
sections. You've
5
got
categories.
Category 1 is grounds.
Category
You got
1 is grounds.
17 in the green.
There is, okay, so 17, I'll just go through the 5 categories, starting with grounds. Out of grounds, we had 17 areas that we identified on the audit that we wanted to say, hey, let's do some action on these, or consider action. We have 6 of those 17 in the green, meaning they're completed, or we've resolved it. 2 in the yellow, meaning of those 2 of the 17 in the yellow, meaning that we're taking action or there's process, we're in process on it. And then 9 in the red. Some examples included adding padlocks to the gates, extending fencing, things along those lines. That's on grounds. On traffic, we had 22 potential things that we said, hey, we'd like to consider this or work on this. We have 3 in the green from those 22, 12 in the yellow, and 7 in the red. Visitors, we have 13 identified areas. We have 8 in the green, 1 in the yellow, 4 in the red. That included things like visitor ID badge, bolster visitor management on high party days, things like where there's extra crowds in the building. Interior, a lot of the interior, this is the 4th category, related to safe rooms. We have 19 in the green, 17 in the yellow, and then 86 still in the red. And there's a lot more in those because there's 14 safe rooms, so if we identified an area that we wanted to work on within that, it covered 14 different areas.
Did you say 86?
There was 122 on that one.
What would be an example?
An example of that is, for example, this is a celebration on safe rooms. One of the things that we wanted was auto unlocking, so when there'd be a radio signal that would automatically unlock a safe room in severe weather. And the majority of the safe rooms, all but 3, we have that functional. So when the sirens sound, the door is unlocked, or when there's severe weather warnings.
On your committee, or you finished?
That's communications was the final, the 5th category. We had 5 in the green, 7 in the yellow, 9 in the red. And so again, the safety it's a continuous thing. For example, video cameras, they come up, they go out, we repair them, and so it's a constant state of progress and maintenance. On the safety audit, we had one of the things that we continuously do in work orders. We had addressed adding the lockout, get out, take out training to be required for the start of the year. We put that into the principal required drills to be done by October 1st. So that's completed. And then the third current action or next action steps that I told the board that we would do is create a district safety committee that meets at least twice annually to look at the safety audit and to determine priorities for safety for the district. So I'll present on that now.
Now your committee met?
Committee met, and thank you very much to committee members. We had the city graciously sent a police officer, fire officer. Some of our members duplicated roles as parents and, for example, fire person. We had an excellent panel of parents, teachers, principals, and a wonderful student. And so overall, in total, we had 18 members. I facilitated. My secretary took notes. We identified safety concerns, hopes, and fears for the district. We reviewed what safety measures and procedures the district currently has. Reviews the broad safety audit presentation, and then as a committee built consensus around priorities that the committee determines should be the key priorities for district focus. And those 3 priorities are as follows. Focus on prevention as much as reaction was a priority that the committee, the safety committee, stakeholders recommended. And if you look at our strategic plan, that line's very.
What's an example of that?
What an example of that is, reaction may be, when something happens nationally, that we become panicked and just start doing solutionitis. With a focus on prevention, it really entails having good policies, procedures up front, having good measures up front, having, I see the relationships falling in this, where your school culture is done up front to prevent safety issues rather than just always thinking response.
So was the lockout, get out, take out decided to go in response to the preventative item there, or have you taken actions yet on the first priority?
Okay. The first priority
Was being preventative rather than reactive?
Oh, these are basically from the committee. The committee met before spring break. So
Okay.
these are basically, the purpose of this committee meeting was saying, hey, what are the focus? Rather than us as a district saying, we identified the safety audit, but we wanted to know, teachers, what are your concerns?
Okay.
Parents, what are your concerns? Safety officials, what concerns do you have regarding safety? And so the 3 priorities came from that committee meeting. And so these are broad, general. The details are still work to be done for the district and potentially the committee in the future. So focus on prevention as much as reaction. The second priority is implement clear, practical safety procedures and training for teachers and students. And so that was something that that teachers and parents said, hey, we want to make sure that our procedures are really strong and people feel confident in them. And so that was the second priority. And then third was have good communication around safety before, during, and after situations internally and among stakeholders. So communication was a resounding, hey, this is very important that we have good communication around safety within the district.
Could you push those 3 goals out to us, just so we can kind of follow what your progress
Yes.
is on those?
Yeah, I can definitely get you it in writing.
Okay,
I think
perfect.
the communication one, an app would help us with that, of course, as far as, something happens at Irving that's really critical, that like it did, so the whole district knows about it. Okay, that's what you're talking about, okay.
And that was, actually, I've got 2 questions. So for the communication, we've talked about this lockdown program. Is that something that you're looking at? We've been asking kind of all year about
Right.
that, so.
So we had a small committee, which included school resource officers, principal, communication technology, who evaluated 5 different, or had on the agenda, at least one of them didn't work out, 5 different communication apps associated with crisis situations. So we had an initial review of different products related to communication within a crisis situation.
Okay, so where are you at with it?
That's it. There needs to be another committee that would come together, in my mind, maybe potentially some teachers on the user side to say, hey, what's the most user-friendly? And because if we implement something that's too complicated, it may not be effective. So really, next step on that is to have another subcommittee that looks at something that's very user-friendly and say, hey, we feel good about this. But the original committee that looked at these did narrow it down to 2 that we felt comfortable with from the ones that we looked at.
Was lockdown one of them? Okay, so that's actually been in our schools, I think, for a year and a half. So we've tried it, teachers have used it. Have we gotten feedback from those teachers that have used, and administrators that have used it?
We did. I sent, Jim Hounshell went to a couple of the schools to visit on the app. And so, again, it's in review. And
So what's your timeline for getting something in place?
we'd like to have something in place by next year on all this stuff.
Okay. And then my other one is in the focus on prevention as much as reaction. We've had some issues at the high school lately. So how many school resource officers do we have at the high school?
We currently have, I'm going to be very specific. We currently have a safety director, and who carries a firearm. We have a attendance.
Does he factor in as a,
He does not count as because when you say school resource officer, that's actually means a police officer.
Right.
And so we have one police officer.
have one-
Jim Houchel, the safety director, is retired from the police department. And then we have an attendance officer who also carries a firearm. So we actually have 3 armed personnel at Joplin High School right now.
okay, but as far as if something were to happen, we have how many, 2,200 students at the high school, and we have really one real resource officer? Are these all 3 of them out in the halls when the students are coming and going and making sure that all 3 of them are there?
Yeah.
I've seen it.
How many do you generally have
That's just what I
for
was gonna
that
ask
number
you.
of students?
Have you ever checked that out? To me, I had a school, my experiences, and like, for instance, Melville, the schools, we had 1,700 students in one school, and we had two SROs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, we'd have to do some research on that. I'm guessing, I don't know.
I don't know what, like, for example, a national average is or standard, or even a state average or standard. I don't know. We've had one for each middle school that then also responds to the feeder elementaries. And then we traditionally had one at the high school until the tornado. Then we had 2 because we had 2 campuses. And then now we have 3 because you're counting this Jim Houchel. But
What's the square footage of the high school now? I mean, ballpark. Is there anybody in the gallery?
500,000.
500,000, and how much was it before? The old high school?
244.
244, so we've doubled the size of the school, and we have the same number? Is that?
it's square footage, not student population.
Right.
Right, but ground to cover.
Yeah.
I think if I remember right, Springfield, check me on this, but I believe we had 2 SROs per high school. And so, but that's not as big as, I think the biggest high school we had was 1,700. And then in Melville again.
Yeah, it's the third
About
biggest.
2, yeah,
Right.
2.
Yeah.
So I think we have to look
that's-
at that.
And I'd
Something-
seriously like us to look at adding, I would say that is the priority.
And that falls under the preventative
I would say
category,
so.
which is already a priority
Right.
of the priorities, so. And you plan to meet again before school is out with the group?
The next plan is to have subcommittees to start fleshing out these 3 priorities.
Okay.
And then determine from there when the big group will meet.
Okay.
Yeah, I really like the goals. A couple things come to my mind. One is, can we have this information in advance so we've had a chance to look over it before we just see it or hear it tonight? I'm glad that it's in committee. I don't want it to stay in committee forever. We've been talking about lockdown since November. Norm and I had our first conversation about suicide prevention in November. Ozark Center has allocated resources just waiting to come in. It's great to be in committee, but we've seen lockdown work. It came into play at Irving, front page
The
on the
thing that we
Globe.
got to be
It worked.
careful, we got to be careful, it's no longer top-down stuff. This is all committee stuff.
I
We got to be
understand
careful.
that. What I'm just saying
Yeah.
is, let's don't keep it in committee too long.
no. Right,
If
no.
we're really
Well-
going to do goal number 1, focusing on prevention, not reaction, don't study it in committee forever when we've been having this same conversation for several months. When are we going to take action to make sure our students are equally safe in all buildings, not just 3 buildings?
And here's an important, like, for example, Irving, we did research, we did go in and say, hey, how did this, what was the actual situation? It didn't work out how it was presented. So that's what we want to do, is make sure that when we have something, it is exactly as it is. It's not a knock on the app or what, but it was drawing conclusions that may not have been as accurate as.
I'm a little confused by what you mean by it didn't work out as presented.
Right.
I don't know what
You know, in
that
other words,
means.
Irving basically went through a lockdown, and as reported, we're finding information different from what was reported. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
So we're doing a roots analysis and figuring it out?
We're just doing a roots analysis on it.
So let me come about it a different way. There's a request out there right now for our domain service as well as an app for communications. Is this type of notification going to be considered in kind of an all-in-one package, or are you looking for something
We're looking at-
standalone?
We're looking at two separate things as far as on the safety side of things. What the app we're looking at is something like lockdown that says,
Okay.
hey, is there something that adds another layer of safety within a crisis situation, which is a little different than a communication that goes out to all stakeholders or even a broader audience within the school. And so right now, we're looking at as two separate
Yeah, we haven't been able to
programs.
find an app that has both, so.
When we went to our training and Sally came back and said, hey, we saw this great communication plan, and
That's
you
what we-
mentioned that, is that a part of this safety audit? Are you looking at that particular communication plan?
Kelly Price is actually
What
looking
was
at
the
a
school district?
communication plan.
Fort Osage.
Fort Osage, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be coming in April. And that's the communication part.
Student-parent communication, not
Yeah.
safety.
But
It had a,
But we'll
it
talk
had
about that in
a,
April.
it had a purpose and it could play a role in a crisis, but
It
it's
does.
not, that's not the primary focus.
Right.
And I think what I hear is that our district administration is looking at a multi-layer
Right.
approach.
But, so we'll hear about that one in April, not tonight. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's not on
Okay.
anything I presented.
that's correct,
Okay.
as mentioned last time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Public comments. Brendan Cooney? Brendan, are you here? Okay. All right, I'm going to read this because it's kind of formal. Please come to the microphone. You'll be able to speak for 3 minutes. When you approach, give your name and address. Do not identify any district personnel or student by name or by any other identifiable information. And we have a time tris.
Time tris.
Timekeeper, yes.
Be gender neutral.
So, yes, just, it's for the record. Yeah.
My name is Brendan Cooney, and I live at 740 East 33rd Street, Joplin, Missouri. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm Brendan Cooney. I'm an English teacher at Joplin High School. I do not, however, want to talk to you right now about my day job. Please do not cut FTC Community Ed. Those courses have come to mean a great deal to me in my short time here in Joplin. Last year was my first year at JHS and my first year here in Joplin. My wife also teaches at JHS, and she and I are starting a new family here. Last year, I had come face-to-face with what can only be called a gross incompetence of all things handyman-related. She had heard mention about night courses taught at FTC, and she suggested that I take the beginning woodworking course.
No wonder
I
you're
did.
there.
I now have a bedside table that I made myself, and it looks like a piece of furniture you might buy in a store.
Congrats.
I made this table under the guidance and supervision of one Ernie Kelstead, a former industrial arts teacher at Joplin High School. I also had the pleasure of meeting many other members of the community who are devoted to Ernie and his courses and have been attending them literally for years. Mr. Kelstead provides them handyman tips and advice and helps them be generally economical in an era when that quality is disappearing. This spring, I am taking the beginning guitar course with Shane Hazelwood, and after a month of lessons and the accountability that only a teacher can provide, I have already gained more facility with the guitar than I have had in multiple solo attempts to learn. Yes, I could go elsewhere in this town for these lessons, for guitar lessons, but not for the price of about $10 a lesson once it's divided out. That will never happen elsewhere, and there is absolutely nowhere to go in this community to seek out what the modern makers movement calls a maker's space, or in other words, guided and supervised access to a professional-grade table saw. Cut community ed, and that opportunity leaves Joplin for good. The charge against community ed is that it doesn't make enough money to keep the lights on. As I understand it, enrollment was at such a number that the program was solvent before the tornado. With that significant interruption to our community, enrollment dipped dramatically, and in turn, so did the revenue it generated. A conversation with the one remaining community ed staff member, Ms. Tammy Cady, revealed to me this morning that cuts in the staff came about as a cost-saving measure in response to that dip in revenue, and the most crippling blow yet came when the funding for its own advertising was cut. As it stands now, community ed relies almost exclusively on word of mouth, unlike the days when a community-wide mailer was sent twice a year. And no such mailer has been sent in over 2 years. When those data shows us that enrollment was significantly greater when those mailers were sent. This program is just yet another victim of the storm that affected so many of us 5 years ago. It has held on tenaciously since then through 5 years of budget and staff cuts. Please decide tonight to run it correctly before you decide not to run it at all.
Thank you, Mr. Goody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, the consent agenda. If there are no questions, I would be happy to entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Gary, second by Sally. If there's no discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. The motion passes. Thank you. Next item. All right, our investment team, Paul.
Please.
Yes, we have our investment team with us that I'll ask to join us here in a minute after I kind of run through the summary here of the item. Pleased to bring to the board this evening the resolution to authorize and direct the issuance, sale, and delivery of general obligation school refunding bonds, Series 2016. Give a little history on this. In April 2007, voters approved a $57.3 million general obligation bond to provide source of revenue to build and renovate middle schools. The bond term was 20 years, and with that bond, our banker made sure, an attorney at that time placed a 10-year call in that bond, which allows flexibility for a district 10 years later, which would be next March of 17, to call the bonds and reissue a refunding issue in order to attempt to save interest if the market would point to that. Currently, our financial advisor, George K. Baum and Company, with board approvals in the January and February meetings, directed the initiation of the refunding and completion of the resolution documents. And the sale of the bonds, I believe, was this morning, and you'll hear a report on that with some detail here in a minute. But back to the 2007 bond issue, the effective average interest rate for that issue was 4.88% back in 2007. Of course, that precedes the Great Recession, and I think most of us know what happened to the markets and the economy since then that we're still trying to dig out of. This compares to an average rate of this new refunding issue of 1.881%, almost 3% less. This will generate a savings net of the cost of issuance over a 10-year period of over $8 million. The formal resolution to refund $47.2 million of outstanding principal amount of the Series 2007 bonds, March 1 of 18 through 27 is attached and has been distributed on the board documents for Secretary Waldo. And the proceeds of this refunding bond sale will be placed into escrow account invested in secure government obligations that will produce funds necessary for a year from now to pay off the Series 2007. The existing debt service levy of 91 cents is sufficient to pay debt service on this new Series 2016 refunding issue and other general obligation bonds of Joplin schools. For this particular acceptance, there's no cost to adopt this action other than what we've laid out in the entire resolution, and the administration recommends the Board of Education adopt the resolution authorizing the sale of the GO School Refunding Bond Series 2016 submitted by Gilmore Bell Bond Counsel. And I'd ask that the professionals please join us if the board has questions.
Mr. Chairman, for purposes of starting discussion, I would move that we approve the resolution as presented.
Second. Been moved by Ron and seconded by Gary. Now, discussion.
I'll introduce
Gentlemen.
our team here. On the left there, Jim Caldwell, you know him from Bond Counsel, Gilmore and Bell, the attorney on the refunding. And with us from George K. Baum this evening are the Vice President Todd Burris and Associate Chase Barnes. I believe Greg Bricker, who we know at Baum, is scheduled out this week on another item. So we're glad to have the team with us and to answer any questions the board may have, and/or highlight any elements of the sale that you'd like to highlight, please.
I'm Todd Burris with George K. Baum and Company. I might just highlight a couple of things. Doing this process, one of the things that we do is do another rating call and update with S&P, where they do an analysis of the school district's rating, and the school district's rating had been A+ coming previously, and the S&P did reaffirm the rating at A+, and it shows that the district is very strong financially in how they run their operations, and that's something that the district and the staff should be commended for. We had the sale this morning. We sent out the notice of sale and the preliminary official statement and all the information about the district. It goes out to all, nationwide, to investment banks that bid on these types of deals, and the bids are due at 10 o'clock, and we got 7 bids, which was a very strong response. Banks that bid, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch was the best bid, but others that bid, Citigroup, JP Morgan, UBS, Financial Services, just name a few of the 7. So very strong response from investment banks throughout the country, and the results and the savings, I think, speak for how strong a credit the district is.
Thank you. Now, can you refresh the number that was estimated last month?
I think it was 7.3 or 4 million. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it was below
That's my
8.
recollection.
Right.
There.
I agree.
Yeah.
The
so we-
interest rate is about 2.2,
Right.
so it's better than we
So
expected.
we've come in about 10% higher.
Correct. And I might also mention, as part of the bid from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, they have to submit a good faith deposit in the amount of $1 million that was wired to the district's bank account this afternoon. If for some reason they don't show up for closing on April 26th, which I've never seen that happen on dozens of these types of deals, the district keeps that $1 million. So there's an incentive for Bank of America to show up and for the closing for this bond issue.
And does this interest rate, it'll be good, is it sort of like a locked-in rate?
Yeah, it's a fixed rate.
At this point? Okay.
Correct. And we did not extend, the final maturity is still in 2027, as it was when the initial bonds were issued in 2007, so we didn't extend the maturity at all.
One thing I might add is these bonds will have a call provision on March 1st, 2023, so depending on what happens to interest rates, there will be an option to either pay off those bonds, or if a refunding makes sense at that time, you'd have that option one more time in 2023.
So what's the gain for a bank to go for 1.1%? To me, that's pretty insane.
Well, they charge a fee to buy, so what they do, they buy the bonds at the sale, and then they sell them to investors, and there's an underwriting fee that they get as a buyer. So they don't hold the bonds, they distribute them and sell them to investors.
I knew that.
Okay. If there's no further discussion.
Just a question. So for the the buyer of the bond is tax-free?
Yes.
There's the incentive.
Yeah. I didn't go there.
It's a
I said,
win-win.
bank.
So if
It's
there's
a
no
win-win,
further
though.
discussion, there's a motion on the floor to accept the sale as presented in Paul's action note. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. That's number one.
Yes, we have a second item here alluded to earlier when we were looking over the FEMA report. This item is a resolution to authorize, supplement, and amend the documents entered into certificates of participation. The technical name here is Series 215A, in order to extend the maturity date of certificates of participation that we currently have with Bank of America with our current agreement that we struck a year ago, March of 15. In February, leading up to that point, that closing date, we had approved a competitive bid for the short-term lease purchase with Bank of America to complete the rebuilding payments to contractors. At that time, financial advisor Baum and Company, at this time, they recommend that we amend our current agreement from a June 1 of 16 maturity to a June 1 of 17 maturity. Payments will be made as rebuilding project reimbursements are received. There is no prepayment penalty as we pay down the slightly over $17 million balance. That's the good thing about this financing, that we can pay that down, no prepayment penalty. And as you heard in the earlier report, we received on this last year when we started out at a $28.5 million balance with Bank of America. We paid down over $11 million from what was received, and that's a proven success that this is working, and it will continue to work for us over the next year. In the event some of our federal and state agencies' expected reimbursements obligations are not received, we will look to, as we talked about in 2014, the summer of 2014, look to any kind of gap financing that's needed, if any is needed. We have to wait and let the year play out, and it looks like we're going to be collecting most of those receipts. But if some are not collected, or they're not collected in time, FEMA is, they control the process on these reimbursements. They're looking over our work now, and these things do stretch out. But if we don't have the funding on hand, at that time, we'll be looking at that plan that we discussed in 2014 summer to gap finance on a longer-term basis, lease purchase what's needed to pay this facility off in total by June 1 of 17. The additional cost with this current extended agreement, the bank we've agreed with this recommendation to pay 0.07 of 1% additional for this agreement extension. Basically, instead of a 0.93 rate on top of the variable rate called LIBOR, we would go to a 1.00 rate over that base rate, that variable base rate. And in today's, that rate can change daily, Todd, but the current rate for the combination of the rates is 1.43 the last time you checked?
Correct.
The capital projects budget that we'll be bringing to the board, we have sufficient funds in that budget of up to $300,000 to easily cover the 4 quarterly payments of $65,000 to $70,000 we anticipate this to be. The administration recommends the board adopt the attached resolution submitted by Gilmore and Bell Bond Counsel to amend the current lease purchase agreement with Bank of America.
Thank you, Paul. That was very technical.
Yep. Everybody with us here?
So,
Okay.
if somebody wants to make a motion to adopt, then we can have some conversation.
I would move
Yeah.
approval of the resolution to extend.
A motion,
Oh, I thought it was already on.
and I'll second it. And now for discussion. So, gentlemen, can you bring it down a little bit for those of us that
We're not in the financial world.
are not as familiar with it?
Really what we're doing, making some fairly simple amendments to the existing lease purchase documents just to incorporate this new interest rate and to extend the maturity on the certificates. It's really, those two are the primary reasons that we're making the amendments.
And the reason we want to extend maturity is?
Well, that's really sort of the financial analysis
Yes,
there.
we have thank you, Jim. Last year, when we adopted this at a balance of 28.5 million with this same arrangement, essentially, it's going to be due June 1 of 16, we collected and paid down 11 and a fraction million from our FEMA reimbursements. We anticipate more FEMA and SEMA reimbursements coming through. They're not here today, but we anticipate over the next 12 months that will continue. So to allow for that, because we don't control the processing of our claims submitted to FEMA, they control it, which is fine by us, but that's a timeline we don't control, so we're buying additional time, 12 months additional time, to allow for more collections to pay down this financing over the next
So
year.
we're extending the life of the loan, it's costing us a little bit more in interest rate.
Fraction more, yes.
And we need to do that because we don't have the money to make the payments because we're waiting on FEMA to give us the money
It
that we've already
matures in June, so we either extend it or we have to pay it off, or we would be in default.
And we don't have the money to pay it off because we're still waiting for FEMA
Exactly,
reimbursements to come in.
And we don't want to move to a long-term debt because we see there's going to be more 14.5 million coming in that's already been committed to come in
Right.
that hasn't
Subject
arrived
to
yet.
closeout processing, which, closeout processing it's not just we look over your documents for weeks and months and we rubber stamp what we
Said we
there
would
is
do.
some settlement to go
Okay.
on, like plus minus, but for the most part, we were real close to the obligated amount on this one project we got back. So that instills confidence that when they obligate and you're several years into the project, they're pretty accurate at this point with their obligation from the one we received back. But there is, like you said, settling on a financing or another big project, there's some plus minus at the time we get back their answer on our closeout.
Does this help us with our bond rating, this type of action?
I wouldn't say it helps you with your bond rating. The rating agencies obviously understand
Right.
what this district has gone through, and it is factored into your rating. I wouldn't say it helps it, but
Okay.
it's not hurting your rating at this point either.
Okay.
I was on the call, both calls with S&P last Friday and a couple weeks prior, and what did help us was our balances that you saw last summer that popped up quite nicely, and that's the sort of thing that they took into account. That
Reserves.
saw we were down 11%, and we were back up, around the 20 number, so they know that we're on the mend, and that strengthened us in their eyes, in my opinion. But wouldn't increased balances be something they would look for as a plus?
Oh, for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would say this action this year's easy. Next year will be a little more difficult because
Yes.
we'll say, what do we do with the remainder?
Yeah.
Do we?
Hopefully it's.
Do we borrow it? Do we pay it? Do we
Right.
take it out of our funds? What do we do? But this gets us to the point where we received the next 14 and a half if those come through, and
Right.
hopefully 17.1.
Yeah,
But I've referenced
20.
spring of 2017, but I'm being general there because sometime well ahead of June 1 of 17, we'll be assessing where we're at. We'll be talking to FEMA and the state about, what's left to process and, getting all we can from them as far as reliable information, actionable information. Then we'll bring to the board well ahead of a deadline, any gap financing opportunity.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, please vote.
Actually, I just do have one
Okay.
question, where it says your fiscal note. So it'll be less than a total of 300,000 for 4 quarterly payments and agreement costs. Are we paying 300,000 each quarter, or that's a total of 300,000?
Yeah.
Total. And is that what we paid this year, or pretty close to? And is that-
We just made a payment the other day of 65,000, so.
Times 2 is 1.
Of course, the rate ticked up a little bit, but the principal's down, so, 65,000 is what I budgeted. You can see we're north of that.
Yeah.
260. 260.
For at 270 at 70 would be 280,000, so. Because it's
somewhere-
variable, I've tried to pad it some, it's a variable rate, but with the economy like it is, it's been pretty flat.
Okay, but it's 300,000 total.
It's 300,000 total for
For
4
the year.
payments of roughly 65,
Okay,
70,000.
got it, got
Okay.
it.
If
Thank
no
you.
further, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, that motion
Thank you.
passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Paul.
Safe travels. Thanks for coming down and presenting to the board. Okay. Next item.
Hazard mitigation resolution.
Tina.
The board is going to be asked to approve a resolution for the Jasper Newton County mitigation plan. Mike Johnson represented the district on that committee, and so he is here to help answer any questions that you might have. And while he's coming up, we also have somebody that's going to help us, Michael Swan.
Michael Swan with Harry S. Truman Coordinating Council is here this evening to answer any questions.
Michael, thanks for joining us.
We'll take one, pass it around.
There you go.
No, just take it.
Oh,
Okay, this is all the same thing.
What we're here to ask you to do this evening is to vote and approve adoption of the bi-county hazard mitigation plan, and to have the board president and superintendent sign that simple agreement in front of you, showing that it was adopted. And the plan enables us to fully participate if we have another disaster like the tornado, to fully tap the federal resources with FEMA that you were just discussing. Without this adoption, there would be quite a bit of money that we would not be able to assess if we have another disaster. Here is the plan. It's also was posted to the board agenda, as well as the document I just handed you all. But out of this plan, there's some specific information to Joplin schools in this plan, which you'll find on page 249, and it is this little set right here. And I'd like to read that for you. It recommends that we consider having a safe room for each location, educate students and parents of hazards with informational flyers, increase awareness of students and teachers with campus drills and training, educate staff and students on shelter-in-place procedures, educate staff and students on building evacuation procedures, educate staff and students on lockdown procedures, educate staff on bomb threat assessment and response, an emergency response team made up of school staff members for each location. These are things we already are doing and continue to do. It's a continuous process. And there's, over and above what we're already spending to do these things, there's no additional cost to us. So that being said, I'll see if there's any questions.
Question, you said there was quite a bit of money you wouldn't qualify. Does that mean some of the disaster assistance funds are conditional on being a participant in a hazard mitigation plan? That's a prerequisite to some of the applications?
Yes.
Okay, and is there any set of standards that apply to the formulation of those mitigation plans, or it's just you have to adopt one?
The school district was a part of the plan. It's a 5-year plan, which is the normal amount for all counties in Missouri. Beyond that, once the plan expires, theoretically, the school district would not be able to apply for future FEMA funding.
I understand that. I'm just saying, are there an objective set of standards?
Yes, we follow a standard.
What constitutes an acceptable hazard mitigation plan?
The plan goes through SEMA, which is the State Emergency Management Agency. They have an outline, and FEMA just reintroduced a new outline that this plan follows for the 5 different sections that it's divided out to. And so the plan was submitted to SEMA in February and approved, and now we're waiting for final approval from FEMA. And in the meantime, we're collecting adoption resolutions from.
And when was this requirement added, and who added it?
What requirement?
To have a hazard mitigation plan.
This
for
began
eligibility
in
for
2004, when FEMA started issuing this mandate to SEMA and different state regulators. And so the last plan that Jasper County had was adopted in 2010. This plan is a bi-county plan with Newton County, excuse me. And so it's set to expire May 16th, I think, of this year. And so we're trying to get this.
Okay, thank you.
So have we signed one of these mitigation forms before?
In 2010.
We're just renewing because
Yep.
every 5 years you need to renew?
Correct.
What was the
It was just
scope
for
before? If this is the first two-county one, what was it? Was it just Jasper County?
Just Jasper County before, and all local jurisdictions within the county.
Okay.
So this covers both Jasper and Newton County?
Yep, by county plan.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Good. And I guess we need
Vote to
a
adopt.
vote to authorize the signature of it. So I'd be happy to entertain a motion to authorize the signing of the resolution for the Jasper-Newton Bi-County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Easy to say. Sally moved and Linda second. Okay, there's no further discussion.
Quick question.
There
Is this
is.
other school districts that were joining in on this, or is this like the city?
Yes,
and
cities
this-
and
it's-
public school
it's-
districts.
Okay.
City and school. Okay.
And the
Okay.
mitigation plan one, it lists them all out.
Yeah, okay.
Gotcha. Okay, so please vote
Yes.
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 yes, and that motion passes. Thanks, Mr. Swan. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for
Johnson,
coming.
thank you. I'll sign this after the fact. And,
So,
all right.
okay, what we have in front of us really is this is the second reading of the strategic plan. We're seeking your approval. As mentioned earlier, there's been some adjustments. Pertinent facts are listed there. And basically, we're talking about a 5-year plan, but really it's an ongoing, living, breathing document that's always going to be adjusted as we see needs to adjust. And so we'll always come back to the board with that through the data board team. And so what you see tonight is the strategic plan as draft, and we're going to keep it calling it a draft because it's always going to be changing. And so you'll see that the plan, as we discussed once before, the addition that we made, we changed and we prioritized the success indicators under student readiness to put the focus on the academic and then the behavior, et cetera. And then I believe the other thing that we did and we did that, I think it was in the language of the readiness itself.
Added that one.
Yeah, but in the readiness language at the right at the top part there, we changed that language to prioritize as well, where it says Joplin schools will prepare every learner to be intellectually, socially. We used to have it socially, physically, and intellectually, so we did it according to the way we have the indicators listed, so we made that adjustment. And then we made the communication adjustment, and that was under the effective and efficient part of the plan, and that is under 3.4.0, and then you have 3.4.1. And this is really in response to the teacher survey data. We sent that to you. We sent that to all staff. It's a teacher, I mean staff survey data. And we found that the plan covers most of the issues that came out of their concerns. But one piece that we felt was missing was communication. That seemed to be pretty strong as far as, and we heard that a little bit tonight as well. And so we included that, and you'll see that that's part of our listing with that, okay? So that's under 3.4.
3.3.
3.3, I mean.
Okay, that's why I
Yeah,
was confused,
that was different, yeah, it's 3.3 now, we moved it up, that's right. Okay, so then, with that,
So you put these in a these are not, they're in a prioritized order. 2.1 is higher priority than 2.2.
that's correct.
Oh, okay.
That's why we did that. And that came from the committee conversations, most of that did. All right. So then, also you have, is it in the documents here? I believe it is. I'm trying to find them. Yeah, there we go, thank you.
Indicators.
Now, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be looking at what the fourth grade readiness looks like, okay? And
As an example.
I'm giving that as an example. This still needs to be fleshed out. Just to give you an example, it needs to be fleshed out by the fourth grade teachers. We need to do more conversation with the third grade teachers, fourth grade teachers, to kind of make sure that they are understanding it, but also we might have some language adjustments as well. And so what you see in front of you then is the English language arts standards. These are Joplin standards, we're going to call them, okay? To stay away from the core, to stay away from Missouri. These are really Joplin standards, okay? And so just understand that in the language arts as well as in the mathematics and the mathematical critical thinking, all right? Then on the reverse side, you'll see that we are dealing with the social readiness. So we put the intellectual first, then we have the social readiness, and then you can see the basic skills around the behavior piece, okay? Now, the behavior piece, of course, every grade level will have a different discussion around. The example will be still the same as far as greeting and also following instruction, but we will have different language around the basic skills, communication, et cetera, et cetera. Some of that will be repeated. So I thought you needed to see it. Then we have the physical readiness, which is really the national standards. And again, as staff looks at that, that might be adjusted to make it more language-friendly for the parents as well as for the teachers. But this, I just thought the board needed to see this and the community to see what that looks like, and so you can kind of get a feel of what every grade level is going to look like as far as readiness is concerned.
Are we going to do this for every grade level, Norm? Or
That's
is this going
correct.
to be kindergarten forward?
No, every grade level. We're doing it
Okay,
every grade
good,
level. Yep,
good.
we're doing it kindergarten readiness, et cetera, et cetera.
First grade, second grade?
That's correct.
The five-year strategic plan that we look at, the two-page summary, is just that. It's a high-level summary.
right.
It doesn't have the details of how we're going to measure and when we're going to measure. It just has what those measurement
That's right.
ideas will be, and then each grade will have its own set of successes.
Right, what I'm doing here is just trying to show how, really at the readiness goal, okay, here is one document out of many that's going to be responding to the readiness goal, and we thought we'd give you an example of what that looks like. Okay, what the teachers like about this, and the teacher for parents especially, as well as the teachers, they really like the fact that this is going to be common language across the district, okay? And they're all going to be using that, so when they collaborate, they're going to be able to target this and use this as the final test. Now, we're going to have to come up with assessments, we're going to have to come up with different ways, and hopefully a lot of that's going to be criteria type of assessment, okay, which is more local. Anyway, especially on the behavior piece, all right? So anyway, we should have, we're working pretty hard on this, so we should have rough drafts of all of this by June 1st. So we're really working
So
with it.
what you're saying is a fourth grader at Stapleton will have the same expectations as a fourth grader at Story Heights.
Oh, this is really the end of third grade.
This is
Going
the end
into
of third grade.
Going into
incoming
fourth grade, right.
Yep, they'll have the same
Yeah.
expectations
No matter
regardless
where
of what
they're at,
school
yeah.
they go to, and
That's
regardless of which teacher they have.
Right, very systemic.
Will they all have the same success indicators then for across the schools?
Right.
That are listed
Now,
here?
there's going to be, okay, now I'm not ready to go there yet. You're jumping ahead of me here. Okay, so we have the readiness, everybody has that, okay? Now we have the scorecard. See the scorecard? All right? And so with the scorecard, and by the way, Kelly and her team did an awesome job of bringing this to the forefront as far as the scorecard. We have, as you can see, here's the Joplin goal number 1, okay? And you can see there, then we have and you can see across the board. Now, that's really the school board's scorecard right there, all right? So then you can see across what that looks like as far as the success indicators, the district targets, then there's site targets for every site, all right? Then you have site action steps around feedback focus. In other words, we have some examples of adult and learner as far as what expectations would be there, and then also the measurements that are there. So we're just kind of giving you a feel of what a scorecard would look like. Now, what's not here is we would also add the red, green, and yellow, green, yellow, and red, let's put it that way. So anyway, as you would look at a stoplight. Anyway, that will be part of the way we will indicate, as was referenced earlier with the safety audit. So then, what I wanted to show you on the reverse side then, well, really all 3 goals are listed. You can see how that rolls out as far as scorecard is concerned. Then, that's yours. And then we thought we'd use Kelsey Norman, all right, and to show how it would look like at the site then. Okay, so Kelsey Norman then has identified increased feedback to students. That's a priority, okay, and then they show where Kelsey Norman's success indicators are there, and then Kelsey Norman's targets are there, and then the champion teams and what that looks like. So this is all preliminary work, okay? The scorecard is not a guarantee that I'm going to have that, or we're going to have that finished by, because that's going to be something that's going to need to evolve out of systems conversations. But I wanted you all to see how the strategic plan works, and you get into the readiness picture, that's part of it, and then eventually you can see how the scorecard. So these are the three elements that are going to be in place, and you can start seeing an evolution and movement around this to make sure that the board is always performing. So after the board approves the strategic plan tonight, you're going to start seeing a change in our approach to the board. The board's going to get far more data. The board's going to get far more responses to the strategic plan. And so we're anticipating with the new board a focus and a presentation around title and special ed, because we're anticipating a number of the new board members won't have an understanding, so we're going to use that to educate, but also to bring the data forward and start showing what that looks like, okay? And so, but the board may want to prioritize differently, and our prioritization is going to all come through the data committee and the conversation of the data committee. So anyway, one thing that's missing that the data committee needs to have a conversation with, and we're going to start there, and that is really, what are we going to call the strategic plan? You know, what is going to be the phrase that we really need to take out there that's going to drive, and where the community hears it, everybody hears it, and they know that the district is focused on kids. And so we're going to be really having that conversation with the data team. We started to a little bit. And there's some thoughts coming to mind. I'm not going to put those out there because they're going to get beaten up right away.
It's like naming a baby.
Yeah, you got to be careful. So anyway, but that will go through the data committee, and that will come back to the board for approval as well. So, but we weren't ready for that yet. Okay. Any questions?
Just to clarify, Norm, prior to tonight, we had just the two-page document on the
That's correct.
strategic plan. But then how we're going to do it is what you're presenting to us tonight with the indicators and the scorecard.
And you're not approving that. You're just approving the plan.
So for people that say, how are we measuring this kind of stuff, what you've given us tonight is the how we're going to measure this.
Basically, that's, and how we're going to be reporting to the public and everything like that.
And we're building that one block at a time.
Yep.
And so we don't have everything completed. But you have the plan, then how you measure it, then how you get to it.
There is a cost. There is a cost to rolling out a five-year plan. And we're going to have to bring that cost to the table as well. In other words, to be able to really have early intervention focus, which is part of the plan. For us to do that, this is what it's going to cost the district, and the community needs to know that. And so it may not be a five-year plan. It may be a 10-year plan for us to be able to roll that out that way. And that's why this is a living document, breathing document.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how when you put dollars to, this is a community strategic plan, by the way. It's not the board. It's not mine, okay? It's the teachers, it's the students, it's the community. This is what they want. Okay, so now what we're going to have to do is put a cost to that. Okay, and so, and cost includes waste and everything like that. And that's part of that CPA team. That's what they're going to have, CPA, that's that finance team. That's going to be part of that conversation as well. And so we should have the community coming to us saying, why aren't you guys asking us to help you a little bit more? Okay, because you're really, really struggling with meeting this particular goal as we report it back to you. So that's really what's going to happen. By the way, we're going to be putting on both sides of this board here, we're going to be putting the strategic plan. And so we will, on occasion, point and say, hey, this discussion tonight applies here. Now, if we get into discussions that don't apply to the strategic plan, it shouldn't be on the agenda. All items on the agenda should apply to the strategic plan. Okay? So, any questions?
I think I misled on this. This will be individual per school
That's
based
right.
on their needs.
That's right.
Okay.
Every school
I didn't want that to be misled.
Yeah.
And then just to, so we've got the CSIP, and so this is all replacing our
Yes.
CSIP?
Mhm.
Okay.
In fact, I've even had, we've had conversations with the, I probably should give you a heads up on this, yeah. Yeah, I will. Anyway, had conversations with DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, about teacher evaluation and about administrator evaluation. And to move that towards a systems review, a systems evaluation and review as opposed to a evaluation, and you kick it into evaluation when you're beginning to see that the changes are occurring. And so that is really an exciting thing, because teachers are not threatened by systems reviews. Teachers are threatened by evaluations, and so are administrators. And so we're having that conversation until we, Paul Katnick is saying, this is interesting. So anyway, that's about as far as I got with him. But the support, Tina, you've been part of that conversation, the support is there. I think there's one or two elements they're still concerned about because of the statute, but I think they're willing to make that move. But we're going to move slowly on that because the board needs to be part of that conversation, because where does the board want the accountability out? And it's very similar to what you looked at as far as my systems review. We would do the same thing at the sites as well as the classroom. So a lot of different, it's a major shift and really a sharp focus on supporting that child in the classroom. So.
And I think a big thing to share is this is not your plan, this is not my plan, this is not Gary's plan. It's the community's plan from the feedback we received.
That's correct.
From the interview process.
That's correct.
And can we post that on the website so they can
Oh, yeah.
go look at the indicators?
As soon as
and
it's
the
approved,
scorecard?
as soon as it's approved, I guarantee it, the chamber, for instance, wants to endorse it, and they want to get public with it. And so we need to get everybody to endorse it. Everybody needs to know it. I want to stop people on the street. Do you know anything about our strategic plan? If they don't, I'm going to give them a copy. Okay. And so that's what needs to start happening. They need to realize that this is their plan. So anyway, it's amazing how that works.
All right.
Okay.
If there's
Any other
no
questions?
further,
I have a comment to make. I spent the better part of 4 decades in education. I've been through a number of strategic planning efforts. Some of them took longer than 3 years. And I think that, I doubt that the public understands that this has been accomplished in warp speed. And it's a very solid document. It's very readable. It's understandable. It doesn't use a lot of education ease, which is confusing to people. Norm has worked at it and led us through it. Kelly has worked tirelessly at it. Data committee has put in a lot of time, and they're going to put in a ton more.
Oh, yeah.
But this is an example of what Norm calls humble leadership, reaching down to the grassroots. And it's strong leadership. I think people are sometimes confused when they hear the term that Norm has thrown out there about humble leadership, but this is an example of it. This is a fine document that is being generated, and it's happening overnight, but it's solid. The speed that it's been generated has not at all compromised the quality of the work. So I want the public to understand that.
Thank you.
I mean, I can also share, it's not a copy and paste of Melville or Springfield or Colorado Springs or anywhere else you've been, because the same people aren't there. So, I mean, getting people to understand that it's really our community plan is a challenge, because they only see us sitting up here. But the number of people that have had input on it, and even if you weren't on one of the formal teams or not, and you've ever made a comment or stopped Norm in the hallway, he doesn't forget those things, and they come up as we're preparing these. And a lot of times it was a single question that we say, okay, well, how would this situation fit into here? And it gives us an opportunity to frame it in a way that everybody can, I hope, appreciate. And if not, I'm sure we'll hear questions, and that's okay.
Well, and we as a community, as we look forward to hiring the next superintendent, it's an example of how strong leadership at the top results in a grassroots effort. They are very compatible. So I hope the next board will look at the strong leader that we have now as an example as they choose their next superintendent.
Okay. If there's no other comments about the strategic plan, is there a motion to approve it as presented?
I move we approve it as presented.
Second.
All right, motion by Linda, second by Ron. If there's no further discussion, please. Yes, ma'am.
Just quickly, and I'm on that data committee, and I know what we've taken in and looked at, but this is a document that can evolve as well.
That's right. Oh,
correct?
yes. We need to put that in, yeah.
Even though we approve it as it is, there's nothing saying, I mean, it's not written
It
in
even-
stone.
It is written in stone, it says working document.
Working document, well, up here it does, but I mean, as far as what we approve, I just want people to understand that it's something that can evolve as the district evolves.
No question.
And things change, that we can go back and look at it, even though it's a 5-year plan. 2 years from now, we may look at it and say, you know what, this actually fits us better. Let's
As we
change
survey,
this,"
we're
or-
probably going to come back and change.
Right.
We will, really, we will change.
Because we've done that at each meeting we've had
Yeah,
as
it
well.
really has, yeah.
And so, things we haven't thought of. So even though we're approving it tonight, it's a document that can still change as it fits the needs of our students and community. And
That's correct.
That's a good point. Okay, now, please vote.
yes.
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 Yes?
Yes. That motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Paul, we haven't heard from you yet tonight.
We have accounts payable, pay bills for the materials, equipment, services, salaries, and benefits in both instructional and support areas. The administration recommends that the board approve payment of bills in the amount of $11,981,477.17.
I move we pay bills as presented.
Second.
Motion by Linda, second by Gary. Any discussion?
Just a quick question. I've always got one. This is a little bit more than what we normally pay. So is this, that payment that we made figured into this as well? You said we just made a $65,000 payment. I didn't go through, I
think,
didn't see that, but is that?
No, I think that'll be, that was, I believe, just yesterday, and this document was
Okay.
produced, issued
Before
last
that.
week,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Okay. No other questions? Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that motion passes. Thank you, Paul. Okay, summer school. Who wants summer school?
By the way, this is the first time I've ever approved application for summer school.
Hey.
I don't understand this, but okay,
That's
go ahead,
okay.
Jeremy. I just had to say that. All right. Because it's part of our budget, right? Yeah, all right, go ahead.
So summer school this year will be occurring May 23rd through June 17th. Those are the dates, and that looks different than what we've ever seen before, just because the school year ends at the time that it does. And so it seems odd. Normally, you think of just the month of June, but with the school year ending when it does, that's why you see the dates that are there. It is going to be held at the same locations for elementary as it was last year. Irving and Soaring Heights being the primary locations, and then Jumpstart Kindergarten being held at McKinley Elementary. Again, now, if you're a Jumpstart student, kindergarten student, and you're going to be attending Irving, you would go ahead and go to Irving for that, or you have a sibling that is attending summer school at Irving, they will be allowed to attend Jumpstart at Irving. And then that also goes for Soaring Heights as well. So we want them to be able to attend at their home school if their home school's the site for summer school. And so that's an option that is there for those as well. But all other students for Jumpstart would attend at McKinley Elementary. The school day will be from 7:45 to 3 p.m. And it was extended 15 minutes because, as you can see, it's really only 19 days, and summer school has always typically been 20. But to go 20, we'd have to go on an extra day, a Monday. Your attendance would be very low on that particular day to come back one day out of the week. And so in order to do that, and I did get with the state and check that, we're well over the amount of time that we have to give. In fact, with the increase of 15 minutes in the day, we are we actually are giving more time than we have in the past with the 20 days. So just wanted to bring up that is a change, but that is the reasoning behind that. And then, of course, we will offer middle school and high school courses. Middle school will be housed at the high school again this year as it was last year. And then they will meet, they only meet half a day, 8 to 11:30. And then the high school is for credit, the purpose of credit recovery. That's why high schoolers attend. And they have 2 sessions, 8:30 to 11:30 and 12 to 3. And for all of these, breakfast and lunch is served and provided to all students for free. So as far as administrators who are over the program, at the elementary level, Teresa Adams will be the principal over that program, and the head principal over that, and then the other principal that will be working with her is Brenda Olds. And then at the principal that will be over middle school will be Josh Flora, and over the high school, Dan Hewler. So those are the principals who are overseeing that. Currently, we've already sent out enrollment forms. Parent-teacher conferences are the perfect time to do that, and since we just had that, those forms went out and were given, and so those are starting to come in, and as those come in, they will start posting positions based upon needs of, per the enrollment. Any questions for me?
We had put into policy, or talked in one of our policy committee meetings about the 4th graders that are required. Are you enforcing that? So-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
So-
yes, thanks for bringing that up. With the Senate Bill 319, we do have to enforce some mandatory summer school for those students who are more than 1 grade level below. Principals have already diligently been working, and conversations were had at parent-teacher conferences with those students. 3rd grade, we said mandatory summer school, even though the retention law is not for them, just to start preparing and getting them ready. So 3rd graders and 4th graders that fell in that category were recommended for mandatory summer school. And then, obviously those students who are in the 4th grade, if they were made aware of, if they're still performing at that level due to the retention law, what would occur at the end of summer school. So yes, they've did a fantastic job of communicating that with parents during parent-teacher conferences. So.
And will you be doing the NWEA assessments during summer school this year, or are we pushing back on the assessment and actually doing more?
That is something that we're making a determination on, honestly. We can do, that is an assessment we can give. We have to assess in summer school to be able to determine at the end of summer school, especially at least for 4th grade is a requirement. So we do have to assess those students. And I'm kind of allowing the principals who are overseeing that to make those determinations and getting feedback from teachers on how to best do that, so that we don't want to consume an entire week, obviously, to just test and not be able to continue growing students. So what assessment are we going to use to make that indication? And so they'll make that determination. So that and curriculum both are 2 things that they were making determinations on and have not made a final decision yet.
Can we use the post-test from the spring as pre-test
That's what I
for
was gonna
summer?
say.
Yes, that is what we're using.
And then just post-test at the
Mhm.
end?
Yes, we can definitely do that.
And that's consistency, too.
Yeah.
Build right off of it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. If there are no other questions.
Move the approval of the application.
Second.
I miss you already, Gary. All right, so Gary has moved. Deb has seconded. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay, that passes.
Jennifer, while you're there, why don't you update the board on principal selection?
Oh, yes, I'll be glad to update them on that.
Just real quick.
Yes. We have 3 elementary principal positions that we've been in the process of hiring for. Last week, I'll tell you the process that we used. When we met with, I had and asked for 2 parent representatives from each school to be representatives on this committee. Asked for 2 teacher representatives that were voted on by the school, who they wanted to have as representatives for their school, and then asked them to determine characteristics that they were looking for in candidates, what were the things that they were looking for in their candidates. We met as a team. I also pulled in a principal representative from the elementary group into that team, since they collaborate and work together. I thought that was very important to have a representative from there. And when brought the team in, asked for what characteristics they were looking for in a candidate, took those characteristics to then look at applications and pull applications for candidates based upon their feedback from that. Then, once we had that information, set up interviews. We have interviewed for McKinley, finished up the last interview this morning. They chose to interview actually during spring break because the teachers said they didn't want to be out of the classroom with a substitute, and so they came in on their own time to do that, which we appreciated greatly. Had a great day of interviewing, and then we had one candidate who, because it was spring break, was gone and had that, obviously planned for some time, and we finished that last interview this morning. And then after that first interview this morning, then Cecil Floyd interviews were all day today as well with that team of people. And we went through the process of, after the day of interviews with each team, having conversations about their thoughts and what their recommendations were. And we will interview for Columbia tomorrow, and then those recommendations will come to Dr. Ritter for what their top candidate selections were in that interview process, and then he will make that final decision. So it's been an excellent process. It's gone extremely well, and we've had great feedback from everyone involved, feeling like it was a very solid. Thus far in the two groups, I asked for feedback on the process and their thoughts, and they all said it was excellent. And our interviewees loved having parents on the committee of interviewers. It was amazing how many of them came in and said, I love that you have parents on the interview committee, so that was great.
Thank you.
Did we have some good internal candidates? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's across a good number.
I do want to tell you that really, after being in 2 days worth of interviewing, the candidate selection, very good candidates, very solid candidates, but yes, had some good internal ones, yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have quite a bit more. We've reached our 90-minute interval. Do we need to take a 5-minute break? Or do we keep going?
Policies. Yeah. Oh, we do have to.
Press on?
Let's keep rolling.
Let's press on. Okay. Policy, item 7.
We have two policies on the agenda for first reading, and Mr. Cravens will speak to those as they deal with graduation and speakers at graduation.
All right. On the graduation, basically there's a statute that says that you have to have some, or policy INC states that you have to have some neutral ways to identify speakers at school events. And so that policy just meets the requirements of the statute. And so the other one's just related to graduation and ceremony. It's just an update to the policy that we currently have.
Jason, is that referring to student speakers at graduation?
Student speakers at graduation.
Just making sure that.
Yeah.
Well, all district events, isn't it?
It's district, it's all district. Graduation's the key one. I mean, that's really the main district event that the policy covers, but it does cover all, and purpose of the policy is just that there's a non-bias way to select those students and a criteria for that.
Okay.
Any questions?
I move that we accept policies as presented.
Second.
Linda and Gary second. If there's no discussion, please vote. Yes, ma'am.
Quickly, are we just voting on 7, or are we voting 8 as well?
7A and B.
Okay.
7A and B.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. That motion passes on first reading. Item 8.
And then we have 3 policies on for second reading, so obviously they were first reads at the last board meetings. So BF School Board Policy Process, CB School Superintendent, and DIE Audits. Remember, we pulled DGA authorized signatures. So if there are any questions.
Approval of A, B, and D.
Second.
All right, it's a race. Ron moved, Gary second. No discussion. Please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay, that is passed as well.
Thank you.
Number 9, Mr. Cravens. Oh, you're already up here, sorry.
Hey, that's good. Is that the aquatic timing system?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Basically, that's a donated aquatic timing system. It would be installed at Missouri Southern. Jeff Starkweather's here if you have any questions other than what's in the board packet. But it's a very generous donation and does not cost the district anything other than we have to accept the donation.
I move we accept the donation as presented, or excuse me, move the approval of aquatics timing system.
Second.
All right. Motion by Linda, second by Sally. Any discussion?
I just want to say thank you, Jeff, for this, because in their swim meets, in order for kids to get the state times, they have to have 3 timers in each lane, which means you have to get 18 people to stand up there and time. And so this is going to be a huge help in doing that. This will be a big deal for the kids. So thank you for, mine were the swimmers, so.
Okay. Do we know who the donor is?
We don't want to say.
Yeah.
We don't want to say?
They're anonymous.
That's,
And is it going to be stored at Southern, or even not during swim season, or?
Correct. It's going to be installed out in Missouri Southern. It is, and the donor does want to remain anonymous as
and
well.
that's fine.
But, so we're very blessed that they've come forward to do this. So we're excited about it. And it will be ours as well, but Missouri Southern will be able to use it if they host anything other than what we're using it for. If we ever decide on down the road to build an aquatic center ourselves, that timing system can come with us as well.
Can it be, like when we purchased, the Booster Club purchased the timing system for the track system, and part of that was you could rent it out basically to other, can this be done the
Possibly,
same?
sure,
If there are
yes.
other, and you
Right,
could,
get
can
people
it
to
be
train
taken out
what
to
to do.
shift when they do the outdoor meet at the beginning?
I don't think that's possible to do that, no.
Oh, okay.
Because it's the touchpads but it's going to be fantastic, as you mentioned. We're excited about it for our swimmers because of the fact, not only just for our swimmers, but for the parents and the fans can actually see on the board what the times are. And
So it's coming with a.
it's a challenge for
it's coming with
Missouri
a time.
Southern to watch that because it's an enclosed swimming pool and parents usually are on the outside and they don't get to hear or see what's going on. They don't get to know the time. So now it's going to be posted up on the board and everybody's going to get to see it.
So it's including a timer board?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
That's great.
Very nice. Okay, so please vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item,
Yearbook.
the yearbook.
Again, the yearbook, this is a standard process. Every 5 years, they bid out for the vendor who does the yearbook. There's 2 key competitors, Walsworth and Jostens, and Jostens won it this year again, and that's the company that we currently use. So
That's a 3-year commitment, wasn't it? I know what it said.
I believe it was bid out for 5 with
5?
the option to rebid after 3 years.
Okay.
It's a combination of book and a digital.
I move we approve the yearbook.
Oh,
All
good
right.
question.
Second.
So there's a motion
And a
by
second.
Deb and a second by Sally. Discussion?
Question. Is this a combination of a book and a digital copy?
To my knowledge, it's only a book.
Only
I don't-
book, there's
I
no
don't know
digital
of any
version. Okay.
digital copy of the yearbook.
Facebook is free.
Huh?
All right. Any further questions? Okay, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, that motion passes. Okay. Another one of your favorites, Norm. Field trip
Yeah.
overnight.
Well, I'm going to call Adam Bell up here, who I fondly call Green Arrow, because he's the real deal on the superheroes. He's the archery coach and sponsor for the Joplin High School team that has a very successful program, and he does an awesome job working with kids. And anyway, I'll let Adam talk a little and brag a little.
Right, so we went to our state tournament here a couple weeks ago. I think there's about 576 schools that participate in the state of Missouri. It's open class, so we compete against every one of those schools, and we finished third in the state and qualified for the national tournament. We qualified for the national tournament last year as well, but we didn't go, and that's why it's important to me tonight to explain to you some of our goals and some of the things that we look for. So the qualifying score for nationals, we beat by 273 points. It's really just pretty achievable, but it's an expensive trip for us, and we raise our funding for it. So if we go, we want to be competitive. We don't want to go just to shoot. We want to go and be competitive on the national level. So our goal has been to place at state. We did that this year, so I told the kids that we'd do everything in our power to go. And our goal now is to come home with a top 10 finish in the nation, and I believe that's doable. So we would like to go to Louisville. It's here March, well, we'd be leaving Joplin March 13th.
May, right? May.
May. Yeah.
I was going to say March, yeah.
Share the
We're late.
characteristics of your students.
I'm sorry?
I read this on Facebook, the characteristics of students that are on the archery team, like their grade point average.
Oh, yeah, so
It's very impressive.
we took 29 kids to state, all 29 passing every single class. That was our goal whenever I started this, and that remains my top priority, is to have an impact in the classroom. We're doing that. The national program now has a program called Academic Archer, where if they meet the requirements of the national program as well as Joplin School's honor roll requirements, they get recognized. 63% of our kids are now academic archers.
Wow.
Very nice. And remind us, how long has the program been in place?
We're in our third season.
Third season, and you qualified for nationals last year, but didn't go?
Right. We win our first year. We had set our goals a little lower. We'd qualified the first year, and we went on that trip because we were fresh, wanted to see what everything was about. And we've kind of raised our expectations, and the kids have met it, so.
So top 10 and then eventually an Olympian, right?
Maybe. There is a world tournament.
That would be awesome.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
All right.
So what kind of fundraisers do you do?
Well, right now, our parents are out working on sponsorships. That we do that throughout the year. We get several businesses that sponsor us through the year. This trip's about an $8,000 trip. And we're about done right now with the money that we've raised for the year, so we need to raise that. So our parents are working on that. We have a raffle going on right now for a compound bow from Outback Archery. We'll have some Facebook auction items coming up, and we're working on various things. We're going to have a shootout. Parents can pay and community can pay $10 to come in and shoot a short tournament against our kids. The kids will give them a little lesson for a few minutes, and then they'll shoot against them. And we'll see how that goes.
I have a question, Norm. In your experience, have districts ever paid the cost of things like this if a team makes it to nationals? Have you ever worked in districts where districts
I have.
pick up that cost?
I have, and it's usually partial.
Yeah.
But you have a danger of where, like in DECA, they go every year. It gets very, very expensive, and so sometimes you have this is an athletic event, really, and you don't have too often where you have athletic events that go national, okay? So to me, it's a tough one, and so once you start that avenue, it gets pretty expensive, and the taxpayers don't like it.
And my second question is, can we set up some kind of a PayPal account so that we could just donate online? Or do we just, if we wish to donate, just make a check out to the school district, or?
Yeah, typically people just make a check out to the school district. And we get that, and I give it to Cheryl Worstler. She handles our books at the high school. I believe Kelly Price is working on getting us something set up on the Joplin web store for some donations. I'm not positive where we're at on that.
I think you get people to donate electronically that maybe won't go to the trouble to mail a check, but. If it's there and they can click a button,
Oh,
then
yeah,
just
that
get
makes it easy.
Well, congratulations on the accomplishments
Thank
you've had
you.
so far, and I move that we approve this as presented.
I'll second.
And Jennifer seconds, so no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Absolutely, yes.
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 Yes, okay. that
Thank you
passes.
very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Adam.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
FTC,
All right. Well, this is very routine, but if you have any questions, Dave Rockers is in the audience as well. But this is a part of the trade and technical program. They get tools as part of their class. Their own funds pay for those tools, but it does meet requirements for board approval.
I move we pay for Franklin Tech's tool sets.
I'll second.
okay, motion by Deb, second by Jennifer. Discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, okay, that passes, thank you. Mr. Pitcher, what are you doing? 13, 14, 15, 16?
E-rate.
These, the four items, the next four items are E-rate funding, which we put the items out for bid, we got everything back, and the final step before E-rate will even consider it, it's got to be approved by the board. So, if there's any questions over those four, I'd be.
These upgrades in the aggregate, how do they compare in cost to what you're currently doing?
Could you?
Well, for example, you've got a $60-some thousand bid for 1.5 gig of internet access.
The 1 gig that we pay for now is almost 80,000.
So these are not only technology upgrades, there are some cost savings involved.
Yes.
For discussion purposes, Mr. Chairman, I would move we approve 13, 14, 15, and 16 as presented.
Okay, there's a motion.
I would second that.
And a second by Deb. And discussion.
Is this in your budget, Eric?
That's
How
what.
do we pay for this?
It's in, we're asking for approval for it to be in the 16, 17 budget, because it usually gets approved after July.
Okay.
And you'll be expending funds after July for this purchase, correct?
So you're just ahead of the game.
Required by, yeah.
Well, in order to finish the process.
Right.
It has to be approved by April 30th.
Okay.
For E-rate funding.
So it's for next budget year.
Yes.
And as he wrote in his item, it's 80% funded by E-rate and 20% local match on all four items.
Okay. And the 20% goes to Catherine. So if there's no further discussion, please vote.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Pitcher. Wow, that took care of a lot of them in a hurry. Board announcements. I have a note here. The Honor Council, the Missouri Association of Student Councils, the Joplin High School Student Council has been awarded the Missouri Association of Student Councils Gold Award. It recognizes for their involvement at a local level, involvement in district student council, and involvement at the state level. It's a comprehensive program promoting student activities and student leadership. Activities include school service, spirit, community service, student and teacher recognition, and leadership training activities. And also wish to recognize the leadership of the teachers, Mr. Mark LaTurner and LaHeather Fisher and Dr. Saketa. So that was a note from the Honor Council, Missouri Association of the Student Council. So good job, guys.
Congratulations.
If there's anybody here representing,
Thanks for
so
leadership.
we like being leaders, not just in our neighborhood, but in the community, and looks like in the state as well. Any other board announcements?
Got that one item.
Discussion?
Community ed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Board announcement, discussion, community ed. Thank you. Didn't see anything come up.
That would be
I asked for
Ms.
that.
Marquez.
Okay, so, Ms.
So I have
Marquez,
some questions. Jason, I think you can, are you still out there? Yeah. If you could come up.
David, yeah.
You had come to us last meeting and said that you were considering cutting this program. Why would we cut a program that can bring revenue into the district? I mean, what have we done to actually promote the program and sort of,
Well, I think this is something we've been looking at for probably 2 or 3 years as far as just changes in the community ed and the way that we're looking at it. We're not looking at completely cutting it out, but I think we need to regroup. Over the last 3 years, it's probably lost around $100,000. The classes themselves cover themselves, but they don't cover the wages of the employee. And we've gone over a period of, I think since 2009, we've gone from 3 employees, and some of those had other duties, but down to 1. And I'd say I kind of compare it to a car lot with 1 salesman. You can only do so much. And so it's hard to generate enough classes to really offset some of the cost right now. On the career and technical side, we can get some state reimbursement for any of the short-term adult training courses that are occupationally related. And so we've been kind of looking at trying to make that our focus over the past several years. Probably the classes that really generate dollars and stand on their own are the CNA, the phlebotomy, some of those things that lead to a certification. Some of the others, with our speaker earlier, the woodworking class has been a popular class. That might be something that we can get some reimbursement through the construction side of things. But I think we need to just take a good look at what we offer, when we offer them. But like I said, there's been a lot of factors. Besides staff reductions, tornado changed some things. We used to offer a lot of senior citizens classes for computers, software classes, applications. When the tornado came through, and then we made that decision to go to the one-to-one initiative, we don't have near the number of labs now that we used to have for some of those type of classes too. So just a lot of factors. Of course, being relocated to the temporary, we didn't have the facilities to be able to offer the number of classes. So a lot of things. I think we're kind of at a point where with the new building and that, we need to regroup. We need to look at our focus. Maybe even want to get a group together to look long-term at what direction we might want to go. So.
Because I'll be honest, I mean, I see this as an opportunity to bring the community into our schools and, to see what's there and be a part of it. And then maybe they would feel more, we look to our community to help with our strategic plan. We look for them to, at some point, you go for a tax base, that sort of thing. And so besides the revenue it can bring in, the school district I worked for had a really strong adult ed program, and it was great. And I just am wondering if we couldn't advertise it, give it maybe a year, and see if we could generate that revenue. I know you're saying that YouTube, a lot of people go to YouTube. I would rather go to I don't know. I think maybe we overestimate how people want to get on the computer.
I think there's some of that, but this is my 12th year here, and I think when we first started, Southern was doing quite a bit of community ed. We were doing quite a bit of community ed. Crowder was doing a little bit then. Primarily, I think Southern does a lot of theirs through their Small Business Institute now, not as much of some of the enrichment classes and things that we used to do. But we've even had discussions at Southern this year of the possibility of trying to collaborate on some things. I know the chamber, as they move into our old building that we were in the temporary, has expressed some interest in doing some things through community ed. And so there's several entities that want to play a part in it, and we definitely would want to continue to play a part in it in some way, or however we can. Maybe there's a certain niche that each of these different partners could provide in that. So a lot of discussion, I think, that needs to happen, and there have been just a lot of things over a period of probably 6 or 7 years that have impacted.
Could you also use an approach where you figure out what a certain program costs and say it takes this much per and this many people to fill it.
That's exactly how we did it when I was at Crowder. We decided we were going to generate 20% over the cost of the class before we ever ran it. And if an instructor was set up to teach a class and we needed to have 10 students to make that class run, well, if only 6 or 7 enrolled in it, then we'd go back to the instructor and say, we can't run it at what we were going to. If you're willing to take a little bit less to teach it, we can run it with 6 students or 7 students, but we just couldn't afford to take a loss on it.
I think.
Yeah, and so that's one approach.
I think if you can
Yeah.
keep trying to figure out what to do instead of just not doing anything,
Yeah.
would be a real preference.
Yeah. And I think there's still a lot of opportunities there, and we've got, for years, adult and community ed kind of ran together. And like I said, we had people in positions that kind of served twofold. They had some things dealing with our trade and tech full-time adult programs that were part of their duties, as well as some of the community ed. And over time, that's kind of, as we've became leaner, that's kind of changed some of that. And so we've got to take a look at what we can do with the staff that we have, and then hope to build it back up. There's been a lot of things over time that have knocked it down. And now we want to start going the other direction with it. We've got a great facility to be able to do some of that in. And I was talking to Steve Reed earlier today, and he said years ago when he taught machining, he said about every program had something going on in it at night, but we weren't running as many full-time adult programs as we do now. And sometimes the play for space, I know we could run short-term welding courses, but we also run a full-time welding program at night. And in terms of dollars generated, if we get $8,000 or $9,000 for a full-time adult student compared to running short courses at $50 or $100, we've got to look at that. So there's just a lot of factors that play into it, I think, that we've got to take a look at. So.
Have you had any conversations with the Chamber and Crowder about participating collaboratively in their new effort and perhaps engaging some of that in the facility at the high school?
Yeah, we had discussion probably last year, I think, before they got a little further in it with Missouri Southern, ourselves, the Chamber and Crowder all at the same table, and taking a look at some of that. So there's some opportunities there.
I think that's
there is more competition in, not just in the short-term stuff, but even in the full-time adult. There's more competition now than there was 7, 8 years ago. In terms of what Dr. Lynch does here with the full-time adult programs. Years ago when we started, we were the primary provider for adult certificate programs. Vatterott has kind of entered into more of the trade and technical field now. WTI, Carthage Tech has opened up an adult program. So we've got a lot more competition in the area. And you factor that along with some online training and things like that, just a lot of things that have had an effect on it over time.
So more competition, a smaller market to begin with.
More slices of the pie going different directions. So, and we've seen
Now,
that.
I'd like to see us just be creative with some of the things and see what we
Community
can
ed
do.
kind of got pulled away from the adult side about 7 years ago. We'll put it back under the adult side and let it, and we can operate.
And that may help us to utilize staff a little better, too.
Yeah. Because I've got enough staff.
I think you see there's support around the
Yeah.
table for the program, and we've got nice facilities that, the community has paid for through their tax dollars. Thank you very much. So if we can find a way to showcase without, losing our shirts.
Well, and I agree. I don't think you can put a monetary value on the value of, probably the year before the tornado, we probably saw 1,000 students during the course of the year in our building just for community education courses, in addition to all of our full-time students that we have day and night.
And what do you see now?
So
200 or 300.
probably 200 or
We
300.
don't advertise it at all.
And, but we
And
still
I've
see
seen
pretty good
comments.
numbers in CNA classes, those things that lead to certifications. And like I said, we can get $10 an hour towards reimbursing the instructor on those that are occupationally related from DESE. We don't have that advantage on some of the other classes that are for hobbies or personal enrichment, so we've got to take a look at that.
Dave, can I clarify
Yeah,
something
yeah.
with you? I'm on your website looking.
Okay.
And so I see things like CNA, phlebotomy, pottery, reflexology, So acoustic guitar, woodworking. So you're not saying eliminate all of these programs?
No,
Some
no,
of these
I think-
programs, we get reimbursed.
Some of them we do. Out of those, probably only those health-related ones that we get some reimbursement on.
Okay.
The acoustic guitar, probably, I don't think we're getting anything now on the woodworking. I think we've got a list this spring of probably 20, 25 classes, and there might be 4 or 5 that we're able to get some reimbursement on.
So it's what you're saying is you guys want to keep the ones that we get potential reimbursement on, but
Yeah.
you want to take a break from offering the things
Well, I
that
think
we
we just
don't get
need,
reimbursement
I think we just
on?
need to look at each course and look at it on a, what can we
Scale
run?
it back, so until we can rebuild it. Build it
I'd like to see you build it back up
Yeah.
rather
We
than
can
get
build
rid
it
of
back
it.
up.
Yeah,
We
I
just have
think
to get-
it's gotta work
We just
its
have
way
to kind of
back.
stop the merry-go-round and fix the problem and make.
I think we got several priorities, though, before that. One is get more kids in to Franklin Tech
Yeah.
from other districts. That's a priority. That's not, that needs to be a focus, number one. So this is kind of at the bottom as far
Well,
as priorities.
and there are a lot
But
of
still,
factors.
yeah.
With our daytime students, we've seen a big drop in the number of
Yeah, that's a
sending school
concern.
students.
Yeah.
And the utility costs on that end are pretty much all absorbed by daytime secondary, including these at night. So if we factor that into the community ed, then it hits it even a little harder. So we've got to look at all sides of it.
We'll have to come back and report on that, but just,
Sure. Come back with some data.
that's right.
Thank you for the discussion. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Gentlemen, thank you.
gentlemen. All right, any other items? Any other guests? Okay. All right, everyone, thank you.
Everybody vote.
Oh, yeah, we have an election week from tonight, so please go vote.
I want to remind all of you, you got one more meeting. Those that are,
The
one more meeting.
handover meeting.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. Please vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I was trying to hang on for
Yes.
longer.
Yes.
Yes, okay, that passes. Thank you, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Exactly.